Watching the SA Sports Show, of course, the SANFLW has exploded in our state. So we thought we'd better talk to the man who's in charge of it all, really, the female talent manager, Robbie Neill, joins us. Robbie, how are you?
Phil, thank you for having me. Brett, how are you?
Right. Yeah. It has exploded, hasn't it? I mean, if you go back, I don't know, let's call it 4 years ago, 5 years ago, it was kind of like, oh, the AFLW is going to start a team, and everyone was kind of like, oh, I don't think it'll really go, and then whoosh.
Absolutely. We've got 8 teams in the SANFLW and one more season to go before all 18 AFL clubs are represented, Phil. So, and an extra one in our town, which it's going to be great for my underage players coming through our talent pathways, because they've got an extra opportunity to be able to stay in South Australia and play AFLW footy at the Port Adelaide Footy Club.
Right, so we're going to have showdowns, mate. That'll be next.
Well, it's a marketer's dream, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's going to be wonderful for that, but for the players as well, how exciting that's going to be. A lot of them would have grown up, watching obviously the men go around for years, but to actually be part of it themselves is going to be something special.
Let's talk about the talent pathways that have created, because at the start it was kind of like, oh, mum or dad will have to coach because we haven't got any coaches, and now it's evolving, and it seems to be a fairly big moving target at the same time. How are you finding it getting in the coaches that are necessary to develop the female player?
Yeah, look, we're working on it, particularly with our female coaches, and a lot of them, they're going to be very good coaches, are still taking their playing opportunity at the moment. So we do have a number of female coaches who are in the system, and I think you'll find there'll be an explosion in the next 10 to 15 years, particularly when you get that playing group coming out of playing a good level of footy, whether it's at State League or AFLW, coming in and then sort of taking the reins from there, and they'll be highly qualified coaches from there. But it's like anything. It's like the boys' system too. You're always looking for coaches, and there's lots of teams, and when there's a lot of expansion, there's an extra team, especially in community clubs who house most of our playing stocks. Getting training room on an oval. Sometimes you're only given a 30 metres by 30 metre section. There's 5 teams on at the same time, using agility poles as goals. It's a real challenge for everybody. But getting the players out on the park, that's the most important thing, and we're doing quite well in terms of getting that playing talent together, having the good numbers playing in community level and school level, and then it gives you ultimately more choice, isn't it, when you get to the elite level as well.
And Phil knows a fair bit about coaching. Do you feel that past players or people who have had a player background, they make better coaches, or is it somewhat the opposite at times?
I suppose having that playing experience, it allows you to live in the player's shoes, so you certainly understand. I think you have to evolve though from what you perhaps learnt and the way the trends are going, and that's with any sport as well. But I think having that playing experience is vitally important, just for true understanding. It's not necessarily the case. You do get some coaches who haven't had that playing ability but understand the fundamentals of the game and have learnt from good people. So, but I think with any sport, if you to really truly understand it, if you've been in the player's shoes before, I think you've got a really good feel for what the players are going through.
I mean, you certainly did that over your career. I mean, you had some stints in the AFL or the VFL as well as the SANFLW, and achieved really highly. But you never went on to coach at the high level. You always enjoyed coaching the juniors, mate. Why did your passion stay with under 18s and under 16s? Because certainly you were sought after, so it was your choice not to go.
It did. I suppose my job kept me there as well. I suppose my studies, and I really enjoyed administration as well. So, and I was fortunate enough. And being a talent manager, you get that experience to coach, especially the underage. And with the underage players, you've got new players coming in all the time. With senior players, you'll coach the same players for a long period of time. Alistair Clarkson has had guys for years, and in the end, there's probably only so much you can teach those guys. But I think identifying talent, that's a real, it's a part of my job that I love. I don't work a day. I always say that to people, and that's really important. I do something I'm really passionate about, and if that means not coaching senior footy. I tell you what, you go greyer a lot earlier coaching seniors, I reckon, Phil, you know what I mean? Where it's ultimately win-loss, and that's the pressure with it. Talent and underage is that pressure isn't there, but you've got to get your selections right in terms of identifying the right kids, which has its own pressures as well.
And when you're speaking about identifying talent, what are the sort of things that you look for?
I suppose, Britt, I mean, ultimately when you're watching a game, you're looking, can they kick it? Can they pick the footy up well? Do they make good decisions? Are they clean with their hands? So you're looking at those things that you have on face value. And then when you do have them nominated, those players from their SANFL club into our talent program, then you get to know the players, and then you're looking at character and are they, and AFLW clubs are then asking about these players, you know, what are they like, what are they studying, and then you're giving character references for the players as well. So once you get to know them within your own environment, your own talent environment, then you're sort of seeing whether those, I suppose, those character attributes are matching their football ability as well. And then hopefully you've got a really good product to be able to endorse to a footy club from there.
Mate, you touched on it before. Obviously, more players playing, be it male or female. The facilities are limited with grounds. Is there a solution? I mean, do the government need to get involved more with... And we saw it early, you know, they suddenly were putting money into areas where they had the change rooms, now male and female change rooms, but it was predominantly... Is it a case now of we need more grounds? We've got to find more space?
Yeah, we do. Where you find that, I mean, when you look at Adelaide, it's a long, skinny city, sort of on the coastline with hills. So it's there's not a lot of space to be able to, I suppose, to create. So, I think everyone has to be, I suppose, inventive in the way they think about things to utilise facilities effectively. But especially SANFL clubs, they're not built for that expansion.
No.
They're in, you know, you've got clubs like whether it be Sturt or Norwood who are in a city in the middle of a, you know, of suburbia really. Not a lot of room to move from there. So you're looking for, you know, do the higher ed ovals from schools and having that relationship. But schools are running their programs as well, especially the independent schools. So they haven't always got lighting for after hours as well. So there's a lot of challenges, and that's it. Explosion's great, but then how you be able to manage, I suppose, that those playing numbers after that is the next thing. And we're looking at getting more programs running in our SANFL clubs, which is going to provide another challenge in itself for our SANFL clubs and how we manage our programs as well.
So you know when it first came in, it was the older players that wanted to play because they dreamed of playing footy. They were the ones that were drawn to it initially. Now we've come down into the junior grade, so the school level starts to get a better chance to develop as well, because we all know as you're an older athlete, it's hard to develop or change bad habits. Have you found that now, mate, with the younger kids, that they're more pliable, easier to teach?
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of them, because look at the players who are coming into my group, and Phil, we had a selection meeting for our state under-18 group last night for our academy, and the age groups were the 2004 to 2006. So when you start looking at that, you're like, oh my God. Yeah. But at least those players now who are coming in, and some of them will be 16, they've had AFLW on their mind since they're 9 or 10.
Yes.
And so perhaps in the past where a lot of the girls have gone into other sports and perhaps spent elite time there, now they've actually gone, no, I want to play AFLW footy. And particularly now with Port Adelaide in the system, our younger players again are looking at that saying, well, there's a great opportunity to be able to stay in South Australia and play AFLW footy. There's 2 clubs here, showdowns, all that sort of stuff, and I think it's really attractive for the players. But the skill level has improved enormously because you've had players who have just spent a lot more time and they've got the muscle memory and all that sort of stuff, and they haven't spent elite time in other sports. Yeah,
well, footy wasn't even an option when I was kind of coming through the ranks, but yeah, it's so great just to see the sport growing so much, like especially in South Australia. I find it quite surprising that the oval space, being quite a footy-orientated city, that you're still struggling for oval space. Do you think we need to build more footy ovals? Yeah, we do. Where we're going to find that space to be able to do it, that's the challenge. But footy ovals, when you actually looked at it, and you look at, with my daughter, I'm looking at high schools now for the future, and if you look at all girls schools, a lot of them got a little patch of grass, a little hockey field max, and all the rest of it. Whereas, and you're looking at some schools now that are going co-ed, and they've got the big ovals, and it's quite attractive for the girls because they're saying, hey, my sport's on a decent oval. It's cricket or it's footy now, which were, in years gone by, they were the traditional boy sports. Girls are playing. You've seen them. They're on telly. The BBLW. It's on all the time at my place, and my daughters are there watching it and seeing it, and they're in touch with it. So suddenly they're going, well, hang on, 100% of the population is wanting to use these facilities now. We haven't perhaps prepared for expansion before. There's been a lot of built-up areas and all the rest of it.
yeah,
Where do we
hang
go?
on,
Yeah,
we're in a bit of trouble
I
here.
reckon you might have touched on it with one of your answers, mate. And yet, is the lighting is going to be the solution,
Yeah.
isn't it? You know, because you said we're a narrow city. There's not a lot of space. So, and we know in Adelaide when you try to build something, a lot of people don't like that being built. They like their trees there, so you can't knock trees down. So you go. The only alternative then is to put up lights and train at night, so you can fast see that may be where they need to go. When we scale it back, mate, you've been in the job a couple of years now. What do you reckon's been the biggest jump for the SANFLW in that short period of time?
I think it's been, and funnily enough, I think it's been the SANFL clubs embracing their teams and all the rest of it. So perhaps when I first came into this job in 2017, nominations have come out. Here's the state squad and all the rest of it. And you probably wouldn't hear much traction from the clubs and all the rest of it. Now we've got a really good nomination system. It's quite a competitive SANFLW and all the rest of it. The clubs are really caring about how their teams are going as much as the boys' nominations and all the rest of it. It's just united the clubs, I think. Importantly, a lot of you go and watch a lot of the men's teams are finished pre-season training, but they'll stick around and perhaps watch the girls play on a Friday night, and that's been really good. So that, I suppose, that club culture is really developing in a number of the clubs as well. And I think that's been it. It's just been the men and the women suddenly uniting as a footy club, and then the clubs getting ultra competitive, wanting to win the SANFLW title as well, and have players go through and play at the highest level and be in our state squads.
It's a really interesting one, isn't it? Because if you go to country sport, the men traditionally played footy and the women played netball, and that's how the clubs were created. They both supported each other. Do you reckon there was a little resistance early? The old school of, well, this is kind of the men's domain. Women don't play footy. Yeah. That seems, and certainly from what I've seen and what you were saying, that's completely gone now. We want them. We're engaged. It's better for the whole club. Do you reckon there was a bit of resistance early days?
Absolutely. And because it's traditional, and the draws were made like that. And you've got a lot of people who've been on committees for a long time, and change is probably something which is difficult to handle and get a concept of when you've been doing things. It's like, it's almost the mentality of if something's not broke, you need to fix it. Yes. And then if you're losing players from one sport coming into another, and that can be dangerous as well for the community feel as well, which is so important. Those from country areas certainly understand that. So that was certainly something where the guys in our regional areas who were working there were certainly finding that.
And what would have been the biggest surprise, quality-wise, for you that you kind of came up against, do you think?
Equality?
That, shocked you, I guess, with that resistance at the beginning?
Probably nothing really. I think our clubs have, we're very, we've got a skeletal admin structure at our SANFL club, so we haven't got many people, haven't got the people to do everything. So it became, I suppose, when you're starting to double with the personnel coming in and your participants into your club, it's managing them and actually being able to service them. Yep. In particular, when the SANFLW is a summer competition, then you go into the men's, and so it's a very long year for our officials as well as the volunteers at each of the clubs. So the trainers are working across both groups. They're going to pre-season training as well as the women's matches, and so it ends up being almost a 12-month of the year, and there was sort of no break for a lot of them. So
evolution
the pressure on the volunteers has been huge with that, given that we've got, round one for SANFLW will be first week of February this year. Yeah. And if you go through and make the men's grand final, then you're looking at, end of September. This year was with COVID being first week of October. So that's a lot of time for our trainers and our other support staff, team managers and all the rest of it who are volunteers essentially, maybe paid an honorarium to be involved, because you are certainly looking at certain staff working across both male and female platforms as well. So it's a real challenge for our people, and to have people to stay there for a long time.
And mate, traditionally coaches know it, mate, administrators know it. The off season's the busiest time of the year. So this is the busiest time of the year, mate. What's taking the most time for you at the moment?
For me at the moment, it's we developed our state under-18 academy. The clubs will be notified later this week. With that, the girls will be going into they've already started their pre-seasons at their SANFL clubs at the moment, so they're looking to get fit and raring to go for round one. In clubland, you get a number of your staff just take a bit of a break at at this time, maybe get a couple of weeks if they've had a really big year. Footy managers are sort of on the, either trying to sign players up, recruit, especially with player losses and all that sort of stuff. So the footy managers you'll tend to looking after contracts are reasonably busy at this time, just trying to get everything in order for pre-season, make sure the training venues are booked in and all that sort of stuff. So it's quite busy from them. The coaches are having a bit of a rest. So everyone's sort of staggered in their, in their own little world, I suppose. But for us, we're just ready for beginning of December for our state under-18 program, and then we'll pick up again in February next year, leading into national championships, which we're not sure what that's going to look like with COVID and all the rest of it, and vaccinations and all the rest of it. So we're in regular contact with the AFL regarding all of that, and they let us know. They want us to be agile and I say obedient as well. So you just got to do what you're told. But yeah, just to if you book something in, just be prepared for it to change.
Yeah. Hey, Robbie.
Later.
No, you're a busy man, mate. We really appreciate your time coming in, mate. Talent manager, of course, at the SANFLW. It's a really busy time, mate. Good luck with the Under-18 Academy. Another string in your bow, mate, because you've got a lot of spare time, I'd imagine. So try and pile a bit more on, mate, if you can. Hey, stay with us still. A little bit more to come.